Hey, Mike.
Hi, Heather. How are you?
Good, good. How are you?
Fine. Sorry, I'm a little bit late.
No worries. I like the shirt.
Oh, thank you. I'm thinking about getting back into Hawaiian shirts,
Sweet.
like the earrings and the necklace.
Thank you very much.
You're
Appreciate
welcome. You're welcome.
it. So, what's new with you?
Oh, let's see. Election time is always exciting for me. And yeah, went to California recently to visit my mother, and yeah, nothing too exciting. How about you?
Nothing too exciting over here. Yeah, nothing too. Glad the election is over. So,
Yeah, well, I don't remember what was the advice I gave on our last show on betting the election.
I think we should ask our viewers that. Maybe that should be our first trivia question for our viewers for the day.
Okay. Well, I see Ronaldo is here. W.
Mhm.
Um, Mo the cat. Hi, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Okay. Well, I see Mo the cat is asking about that. He says, Wizard, if you don't mind, how did your hedge bets on Biden work out? Looks like most bookies are already paying off. For your information, someone in the UK bet 5 million on Trump. Okay, and Anne reminds me, well, she says, as a rule of thumb, I usually do bet on the underdog, but I don't remember exactly what I said on this show. But about a month ago, I switched. I would say up through September, I was saying bet on Trump, but I started to have my doubts because he was polling 10 points behind Biden in the polls, and he just was not catching up. And I got nervous. Now you might say he was polling 4 points behind Hillary Clinton in 2016 and still won, and pretty easily won. But he won so many states by very small margins, under 3%, that I did a lot of math, and I wrote about it in my last newsletter, which you can see a copy of on my site. And the math said that I only gave Trump about a 20% chance of winning, maybe 25. And to only have to lay 2-1 on Biden seemed a great bet. So I bet a lot to basically get out of my position on Trump, and then a little bit more so I would at least win something if Biden won. So yeah, in the week before the election, I bet about $22,000 on Biden. And I didn't win very much because most of that was just getting out of my positions on Trump. But and I was really nervous because on election night, when they were counting the votes, around 7:30 Pacific time, PM, it was not looking good for Biden because Wisconsin and Michigan were just Trump was just killing it in those two states, Pennsylvania too.
Okay, so here's the big question tonight. What is more exciting, a football game or watching the votes come in during election?
Watching the votes come in. Because this is something that means something. I mean, football is just a game, and
football only lasts
who
like
wins
a
elections
certain,
is important.
yeah, and football only lasts like a certain number of hours. You had votes going on for days, so I bet that was fun
It's
to go
still
through.
going on. The betting odds still suggest Trump has a 9% chance of being the next president.
Okay.
I don't see why they're that high, but they are. Okay, well, anyway, I'm getting kind of tired of talking about the election. If anyone has any questions about it, they're welcome to ask, but let's see what the peanut gallery has to say.
Okay, well, our first question comes from TMOC. And do you think that there will ever be a game created that will be bigger than poker?
I assume you mean table games. I think there will be. What it will be, I don't know. I think that the poker generation will eventually come to an end and something new will come along. I don't know what it'll be yet, but I think that poker is declining in popularity. And but what's going to take its place? I don't know. I don't really see anything huge coming along. So we will just have to wait and see.
Okay. Now, do we have any fun trivia to ask the audience members, or should we go on to the next question?
Yeah, no trivia today. So let's just concentrate on the audience questions and comments.
Sounds good. So our next question comes from Paul. If you have $100 in hand, provide brief steps in doing the following: converting to Bitcoin, doubling up on an online casino, and then converting it back to cash. How much should you expect after all of these fees? So if you convert it to Bitcoin and then double up on an online casino and then convert it back to cash, how many fees are you going to pay for that?
It's not going to be that much. Bitcoin fees have been going up. And it depends. Like lots of times when you do a Bitcoin transfer, it asks you basically, do you want to pay more and have it done fast, or pay a little bit and have it done slowly? So Paul didn't specify, but let's say that you're patient and you're okay with, say, a 2-hour transaction. Although I have waited before like 5 days for a slow transaction, but most of the time I would say the cheap way takes about 2 hours. So for $100 transaction, I think you would be looking at about $2 in fees. Now, keep in mind that who knows what Bitcoin is going to do. I guess that shouldn't really matter, because let's say that's, you also have to consider converting the cash to Bitcoin. And there's really no convenient way to do that I've used so far. But there you're going to have to pay a fee. And I think that if you just go off of the market, maybe you're going to have to pay a 2% fee there, and 2% to convert back, and 1% each time with the casino. So now we're up to about 6%.
Okay, so $6 for $100.
Yep. That's why it's good. Like if you play a lot of online casinos, it's good to just keep some of your money in Bitcoin, so you're not having to convert it to cash back and forth. Like, I've always done it with private individuals, but then there's a lot of communication involved, and you have to meet them to give them the cash, and it's kind of a hassle.
It sounds a bit like a hassle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so going on to our next question. This is from David. Did you know that Alex Trebek hosted a game show called Wizard of Odds? I'm surprised that they didn't.
Absolutely have known that. Many people ask me that. Yeah, but for those who don't know, before Alex hosted Jeopardy, he hosted some other game shows and I think some other shows that were not game shows. And one of them was a trivia show called Wizard of Odds that lasted a short period of time. And, had I ever been on Jeopardy, I think that would have been a good thing to talk about in the Meet the Contestants portion, but alas, it's not to be.
They're still going to have the show. You could still be on there. It just unfortunately will not be Alex.
Yeah, but the new host is probably going to want to be like, I'm the new host. I don't want to hear a lot about Alex. So. Do
you know who they're thinking about putting in there?
No, not a clue. I hope it'll be, what I saw a taping last year, and the guy Jimmy and the woman Sarah, I think would both do a good job.
Well, I heard through the Twitterverse that it was going to be LeVar Burton from Star Trek.
Remind me which character he played.
Okay, The Next Generation, Georgie LaForge.
Let me look that up real quick.
He had the visor.
Oh,
and then he did Reading Rainbow
okay, I know
too.
what you're talking about. Yeah, he was also in Roots.
Oh, okay.
I don't know him that well. I have absolutely, no thoughts off the top of my head. Seems like a nice guy.
He's a really nice guy.
To be honest, I'm partial for Sarah. I think she could just stand there and the eye candy factor, let's be honest, is very high with her.
Hey, us girls need candy factor too. I mean, come on.
But
okay. You got to give us something to look at.
But I mean, I don't want to say what women like, but in the grocery store, almost every single magazine, including the magazine that market to women, have women on the cover. I mean, I think both genders would rather look at women. Let's be honest.
Fair enough. I can't argue with that.
But, I know women that, what do I know?
Okay, shall we move on to the next question?
Okay, here's a question, though, that I've asked a number of women. I say, if you were at a nude beach, would you spend more time looking at the women or the men? And they all say the women.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Yep. Yeah. Okay, so Chris says, what are the odds of Vegas being shut down again?
Yeah, I don't really know. The governor just said, I think a couple days ago, that he is recommending a lockdown, like on the honor system, and he said that if numbers don't get better within 2 weeks, he's going to take more drastic measures, which I interpret to mean another casino shutdown. So if you put a gun to my head and made me bet right now, I think there will be another shutdown, and it will probably be late November, early December.
Oh, right during Thanksgiving too.
Yep. If there's any non-essential business, though, it's gambling. So to be honest, if I were governor, I would probably shut things down again.
Well, I think our numbers are, what is it? We're over 1,000. I think it's 1,300 new cases per day. Right.
It's all a matter of percentages, but at least in my opinion. But I don't like talking about politics, but I think there should be one, as gambling is definitely a non-essential business.
Well, if you don't like talking about politics, I got a great question for you. And this is from our favorite person, Anne. Hey, Anne. Hi, Anne. What is your favorite board game or game that you would play with friends or family? Love this question.
Yeah. When I was in practically through my whole high school and college years, I played a ton of Risk. I mean, in the summer of '84 was pretty much spent only playing Risk. And so I love Risk. Haven't played it in decades because a game takes so long, and when you're married with children, no one just has the time for it. But let's see, what else do I like? Good old Monopoly is always good. Clue, Yahtzee. I kind of like Pictionary, if you call that a board game. I'm pretty good at that. And, anything trivia related, like Trivia Pursuit, I love. So, yeah, and you can tell all these are all classic games. I think that whatever you were into when you were like between the ages of like 13 and 20 is going to stick with you your whole life. And that's, think of it, movies, music, that's just like, that's my generation. That's what I like. Fair enough.
Good point. Thank you so much for the question. That was a good question. Anne. Okay, so next up is from Dr. Dice Shooter. How do casinos calculate your theoretical loss for comps on table games such as craps and roulette?
It's funny you ask that. Now, roulette is pretty simple. They look at your average bet and they assume so many spins per hour, like 30. And so they can calculate how much you're betting per hour. And then say it's 00 roulette. Then you multiply that by 5.26%. That's going to be your expected loss per hour. And the rule of thumb is that they are going to give you back about 1/3 to 1/4 of that. Now, it gets a little bit more complicated with games like Blackjack. Like if somebody doubles down, do you count the double down wager in his bet? but it gets really complicated with craps, like say the pastime bet that can stay up for several rolls. So and I have tried to ask people in the business, how do you comp players on craps, and I get contradicting and inconsistent answers, but the way I would do it, like, you can't sit there and count every single bet a player makes, but okay, so I mean, everyone says, including me, that the house advantage in craps is 1.41%, but that is per bet resolved. If you look at it per roll, it's only like 0.4%. So what I would use if I ran a casino is I would use the house advantage per roll for all the bets. And then I would just take random samplings at the table. Like right now, I see Heather has $100 on the table, and I would look at what you're betting and try to come up with, but yeah, then it gets complicated because the house advantage per roll can range anywhere from 0% to 17% in craps. So yeah, there's really no easy way to do it in that game. But yeah, okay, I could talk about this a long time, but the general rule is you get back about 1/3 to 1/4 of whatever you can theoretically expect to lose.
So does that mean I get to have a free dinner tonight? Maybe a free show?
Are you playing like you were betting like $5? I'm just joking.
Well, that deserves a free dinner and show.
Well, you have to earn the free dinner and show.
Oh, come on. Ask any player. They know that at least $1 minimum earns them at least a free dinner and show. So our next question comes from Big Boy. How likely is it that table games are removed for electronic ones like some of the New York casinos have?
Okay, first of all, during the shutdown, the casinos got rid of a lot of live table games and put in stadium gaming, or just electronic table games, and they're allowed to do that. And I think that is going to continue to happen. And what can I say? I recently was at the Aqueduct Casino by New York City, and that is all electronic, but that's by law. They're not allowed to have human beings dealing the games. I don't think it'll ever get that way voluntarily in Nevada, but I think we're going to get to a point where table games are only about 25% of the floor space, and it'll probably bottom out there.
Can I just add something real quick to that?
Of course, you can add anything without asking.
Remember when they brought in those electronic games where it was blackjack and whatnot, and they had the virtual dealer, and it would be like you're playing on a blackjack table, but the dealer was like a screen?
Yeah.
They didn't do too well. And what I heard in the dealing sphere was the reason why they weren't doing so well was because you didn't have that human interaction. And that's what a lot of table games are, technically. I'm sorry, but it's like you're a therapist. You're sitting there talking to the person, and they're like talking to you, telling you, their life story. It's technically, you are like a therapist for 8 hours sometimes, depending on the player. But it's that human interaction, and you can't get that human interaction, the jokes, the stories, the feedback. You can't get that from a computer. And I think that's one of the reasons why table games will never die off, because of that human interaction.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I said that it would probably reach about 25% of floor space and then stay there, because some gamblers just don't like machines, and they do like that human interaction. But I do think that minimums may go up, and the casinos may just say, look, it's expensive to have a dealer here, and if you're not betting like at least a certain amount, it doesn't make economic sense for us. So
table games of the future.
Yeah.
So our next question What psychological tricks or tactics do slot machines use? Is there anything apart from music, near misses, or false wins that they use?
Well, first of all, how shall I put this? The machines don't deliberately, like, let's give this player a false miss. I mean, you get false misses a lot, but that just happens randomly according to the laws of mathematics. But if you have, say, a 5-reel game, in most states, you're not allowed to have the game work like, okay, let's give the player a near miss right now and give him 4 jackpot symbols, and then the last really gets nothing. No, the way slot machines generally work is every reel the outcome is independent of the other reels. And false wins, I don't even know what a false win is. And, music, I mean, music is part of the entertainment. And, they definitely work hard at trying to get music that the players like. But at the end of the day, I think that slot machines are not as devious as people think they are. They are what you see, and I really think that there's not much hidden trickery to them. They want the player to lose a little money and leave happy, and for the most part, that's what happens. So, and slot machines are so profitable already that it's not like you need to think really hard about tricking the player to losing even more, because he happily gives you his money with a pretty much honest game.
I heard that they incorporate some video game standards in the slot machines, and one of the things that they incorporate is the pitch or the tone of when you win, the sound when you win. It's sort of addicting. Like that pitch or that tone sets off your reward system in your brain, and it makes it more addicting. And they use that in handheld games or cell phone games like Candy Crush and whatnot. Whenever you do something right, you get the do-do-do-do, and it's like a reward and blah, 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 and it's the pitch, it's the tone.
Yeah, they absolutely do that. That's basically giving the player a little shot of dopamine.
Yeah.
And for the most part, that's why the player's playing. And it's not so much that they are actually looking at their wins and losses, but when they win something, that music comes on and that triggers just a little dopamine rush. But I don't think that that's, devious or anything. I think that is just giving the player what he wants. He's getting a little dopamine fix that's natural. And, I have nothing against that.
Cool. Okay. So next up is from Craft Strategies. Do you use specific formulas or equations to decipher a potential AP slot, or is it unique to each deciphering attempt?
Advantage playing slots is probably something I should pay more attention to, and I have written something about it in some of the games, but I don't sit there and see, oh, here's a new game, let me see if I can AP it. I probably should do that more, but I don't, because how shall I put this? In Las Vegas, advantage playing slot machine is really competitive. There are vultures. There are just tons of vultures to compete with, and you just don't see good opportunities very often. But yeah, nevertheless, I think I am going to write more about this going forward, because it's getting harder and harder to find anything new to write about in the world of gambling.
Do you ever take people's questions and turn them into an article? Sometimes we do that.
Yeah. Somebody, like, both of my forums are just ablaze with conspiracy theories about how Biden stole the election.
Oh, fun.
And one argument that has been made is is if you look at, say, Michigan and all of Michigan's counties, and you look at the total number of votes that Biden got in every county, that if you look at the first digit, you should see a certain curved distribution favoring ones. And this is called Benford's law. And I have spent hours and hours since the election analyzing election results, comparing them to Benford's law. And in states where you have, shall we say, an exponential distribution of the population per voting district, which is usually on the county level, I'm finding the results follow Benford's law pretty well. And the people who are saying that Biden stole it, as allegedly proven by Benford's law, are using places like Chicago, where there are so many districts that only have about 1,000 people, or shall we say a 3-digit population. And so if you have a 3-digit population, and in a city like Chicago, Trump might get 20% of those votes. So there are so many jurisdictions in Chicago where the total number of Trump votes starts with, I believe it's a 4, maybe a 5, which is not consistent with Benford's law. But you can't apply Benford's law because there's so much consistency between district and district in Chicago. And there's another video on YouTube I watched yesterday that went 20 minutes long about how the results, where was it? I don't even remember. But, he didn't do any statistical tests on it like the chi-squared test. He basically just said at the end of it that it looks fishy. Saying something looks fishy is not very persuasive to a statistician like me. So, and I haven't looked at all the other conspiracy theories about how Biden allegedly stole the election. But Benford's law is not one of them. I have seen zero evidence that the election results are in violation of that law. And I plan to write more about this in my newsletter next week.
Are you going to change it to Biden's law instead of?
I should. That would be a more appropriate name for it, because I think most people never even heard of this before the election. And now it's kind of like, if you go and just search Benford's law 2020 election, and you will see all kinds of crackpots going crazy about it. Like, this is proof that Biden stole the election. And then they present no proof that's statistically valid.
Well, I would like to read your article on that, so I'm looking forward to that.
I actually started on it in the newsletter that came out today, but it was running so long that I'm basically going to break that topic into 2 different parts.
Cool. Looking forward to that.
Thanks.
So our next one is not a question so much as a comment, but I would love to hear your reaction about it. Mm-hmm. What if Betty White took over for Alex Trebek?
Well, as much as I like Betty White, I can't see her hosting a fast-paced
game like Jeopardy,
where you have to get through 60 questions in the show, and But I love Betty White. I could see her on a different kind of game show, but yeah. By the way, I believe Alex's last show was on Christmas, so everybody should watch that. And yeah, whoever takes his place, those are going to be some big shoes to fill. So, yeah.
Anne says Neil deGrasse Tyson would make a good host. I agree with that.
Oh, he's one of my heroes.
That would be a good one too.
I kind of think that's outside of what he does, but he's great.
Have you ever, you've played Risk the board game, but Big Boy wants to know if you've ever played Risk the video game on Steam.
No.
That'd be something to try.
Yeah, Heather, you once got me to install Steam on my computer, and I can't get it off. Yes. It's always like putting these pop-ups, and it's like taking over the thing. I don't know how to get rid of it.
Well, I guess that means we just got to get it working so you could play a video game with me. So our next one is from Victor. Should I always hit 16 when a dealer is showing a 7 ace?
If forced to a yes or no answer, the answer is yes. Now, if you really want to get technical, and I probably shouldn't confuse you with this, but if you have a 16 with 3 or more cards and one of them is 4 or 5, then you should stand against the 10 only. But it is such a tiny improvement in your expected value that I wouldn't even bother with that unless you already know basic strategy cold and are looking to lower the house edge by like 0.01%.
It's something.
I do that. But I try to cut down the house advantage. Every 1/10 of a percentage point is important to me.
Yeah. So our next question is, I went to Aria last weekend and I saw a hybrid blackjack game where there are 2 deals at front and 10 to 20 players playing apparently video blackjacks with the actual cards. Are there any benefits to this?
The odds are basically the same as in, a normal table game. So yeah, the odds are the same. I guess the advantage is that you don't have to bet as much with this. It's called stadium gaming. And if you don't want to be bothered, it's a good way to play. So, but yeah, ultimately you have to look at the rules. So just make sure that blackjack pays 3 to 2 and, and try to get the other rules as good as you can. But then just play whatever is most enjoyable to you.
Cool. Sounds good. So our next one is, do you have any ideas as to what it actually is about gambling that makes some people become addicted?
This is getting out of my area, but I just talked about the dopamine thing, that I do think that some people play for that excitement factor and they get addicted to the dopamine, and the fact that it comes in randomly, makes it even more strong that like when like with the monkeys, that they did a thing where if the monkey pressed a button, they got something to eat that I think was laced with drugs somehow. And the monkey enjoyed that, but then they went to only giving out the candy like randomly, like maybe 1 time in 20 that the monkey hit the button, and the monkey was just going crazy hitting that button. And,
poor monkey.
So, but for whatever reason, it's more fun if your reward happens randomly as opposed to being guaranteed when you make a bet. But the other reason is the escape factor some people just have not much fun in their lives, and they go to the casino and they play penny slots for 8 hours and they just zone out and they're in their own world and they leave their troubles behind. And that, that's another reason for gambling addiction. But so that's about all I know about it. I'm sure that there's other people that know more.
Something to add to that too is, people with certain mental disorders are more likely to have addictions, whether that's gambling addiction, alcohol addiction, sex addiction, whatever addiction it is. And one of those mental disorders is bipolar disorder. So if you have bipolar disorder, you'll see in most people who have bipolar disorder that there is some form of addiction. It doesn't have to be gambling. It could be eating food. It could be shopping. It could be spending money. It could be like, there's so many things in that area. But they have noticed that people with a gambling addiction, there are a lot of them that are bipolar. And that's one way that they use to ease themselves. So their mental disorder causes some discomfort. And one of the ways that they ease that discomfort is by, indulging in that addiction. So, yeah,
I agree with you. I seem to know a lot of people who are bipolar, and a lot of them do, I don't want to say they're addicted to gambling, but they seem to really like it. And, and it's pretty obvious that there's a correlation with addictions. Like, why do you see so many people smoking in the casino, as compared to any other indoor venue? I think it's because these are just generally people that have addictive personalities.
Yeah, that's the other thing is addictive personality. And a math test agrees with you. So our next one is, let's see here. We lost where we were. Just a second.
I saw somebody ask about the Three Stooges.
Here we are. What were all the Stooges? I think we forgot that last time.
Well, there's certainly a Larry, Moe, and Curly, and those were the three major ones. I recently was at the grave of Moe Howard, who is interned. I think it's Century City, kind of by the airport in LA. But then there was Curly Joe, Shemp, and who was the other one? Curly Joe. It might have just been Joe. I'm sure some of the audience knows.
It was Moe. Curly, Moe.
I already said Moe, Curly, and Larry.
Larry, yeah.
Larry are the main three. And then there were three others that, oh gosh, I should know this. I think that it was Curly who left, and then they had three different Stooges replace him, and then I think he eventually came back. Okay, so someone in the audience tell me. So you got Larry, Curly, and Moe, Shemp, and Curly Joe. Who was the other Stooge?
If you know, put it in the chat.
Yep. I already said Shemp, I believe.
And Moe the cat wants to bring up a point of what we were talking about earlier. He said, you can't flirt with machines. It's really, really hard to flirt with a machine. So that's another reason why dealers are better, easier to flirt with. TMOC, what is the craziest thing you have ever seen in a casino?
I don't have any good stories like you do, Heather.
How do you not have stories? I just don't understand. You are in the casino way more than I am. How do you not
attract boredom? I don't know.
You are not boring. You're fun. I don't agree with that.
But I don't know. I have some moderately interesting stories, but for as many years as I've played, I don't have many good celebrity sightings or seeing naked women run through the casino like you have.
I have stuff I can't tell because I don't want to get your channel banned.
Yeah. So, yeah. What's the next question?
Okay. Let's see. The next question.
I see some people mention Joe, that just Joe was one of the Stooges.
Okay.
I don't deny that, but I don't remember that either.
So Richard asks, when practicing craps at home, I always keep track of where I stand money-wise. At the casinos, I never see folks keeping the score. Is it okay to keep track of your money via paper and pencil on the table?
I would say that as long as you're not slowing down the game with it, that
you're good.
No one's going to care.
Yeah, dealers shouldn't care.
Mm-hmm.
We've had people, not on the craps table, but on blackjack. Actually, on blackjack, on roulette, it's normal for them to write stuff down. So if you want to write stuff down, go for it. Just don't go over the rail, and don't slow down the game. Yeah,
when I was a more active gambler, I always carried around a little notebook and wrote down at every session how much I was buying in for and what I was playing. And I had, so I had really good records, but
you would be amazed at how common it is for people to keep notebooks on this stuff.
I don't really see that very much, to be honest with you, but I think that if you're concerned with how much you're winning and losing, which you should be, then you should do that. But I think most players don't really want to know how much they're losing. And so that's why they don't keep track. Yeah, you have a very good point, probably.
Our next question comes from TK. Mm-hmm. What do different religions say about gambling? Any general thoughts or knowledge in this area?
I can only speak well to Christianity, and there is no specific verse in the Bible that says not to gamble. They did in the Bible decide random things by casting lots, which was basically like having numbered like probably stones in a jar, and you would pick one randomly. That's how they divvied up Jesus's clothes. But as far as I know, gambling for money is not directly mentioned in the Bible. And I don't want to speak to other religions, but I think that would cover Judaism as well. And I don't want to speak to any religions that I don't know much about. But as far as I know, none of them really directly have the word gambling. Now, a lot of conservatives will say, well, you can read between the lines, and the Bible does say that the love of money is the root of all evil, and they might assume that people gambling for the love of money. But, I don't think that's usually the reason people gamble.
Well, in that case, wouldn't they have a problem with business owners and like CEOs and, all of the rich people in the world?
I'm not sure I see your point. Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, I think they would say that these people are just trying to offer a good product or service. And
No. See, there's a point where you have so much money that the more money you get, it does not even matter. There's the love of money. That right there is the definition of the love and money. Like when you still accumulate money, when you have so much money, you can't even hope to spend it in like 1,000 lifetimes, and you're still trying to accumulate money. That right there is the definition of love of money.
That's a good point. And I think they might look at it as like at some point you start to see those lists of like the 100 richest people, and you just want to climb that list. Not that you really need the money. I mean, I don't want to speak for these people, but I'm just hypothesizing.
A lot of the really mega rich people say that at some point it just becomes a number, and you're just trying to get the number higher. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but I think that the reason you want to get the number higher is to beat other people in your range.
Yeah, to be better than them. Yeah.
So that's about as far as I can take that one.
Okay, so our next one, let's see. This is not a question so much as the statement. Some research indicates that the amount of dopamine produced when hitting a bonus round is about the same amount as when winning a jackpot. I could believe that.
Well, bonus rounds happen so often in slot machines that I'm a little skeptical of that. And it would also depend upon how you define a jackpot. But there is definitely a huge dopamine rush in hitting a royal flush in video poker. And it plays that music that basically only gets paid on a hand pay. Mm-hmm. But hitting a royal is exciting. Nobody will deny that. But hitting a bonus round happens all the time.
Okay.
So I think that you have to, I think that the less often it happens, the more exciting it is when it does happen.
Good point. Okay, so our next question comes from Dave. When downloading free play on a slot, is the casino alerted that you are doing so? And does it depend on the amount?
I don't think that like an alarm is going off in anyone's office that Dave Backstrom is downloading free play. But, the system knows. And, I think on the back end, they know how much free play you do redeem. But it's no big deal. People don't pay attention to the real little stuff like that.
What do you think they pay attention to? When somebody comes into the casino and either wins a lot or loses a lot of money, that tends to make their attention. Yep. And, when they're suspicious of advantage play or cheating, that might get their attention. But somebody redeeming $100 in free play is not going to make anybody's radar. Okay, good to know. So our next question is from TK. Do you have a general idea on how sports leagues feel about legal sports betting? Is there general support?
I bet secretly they really like it because sports betting generates interest in sports, and they should be thankful for it. And but on record, they're probably going to say they want nothing to do with it. But but everyone knows that sports betting is good for sports.
Cool.
For one thing, with the point spreads and bets on over/under, there can be excitement in a game that's not even close who's going to win or lose, because it may be competitive against the point spread and against the over/under. So it keeps people in the game, which keeps people watching commercials, which generates money for sports, which is what they like.
Super Bowl. Best commercials ever. Nobody watches it for the football. So next up is Dylan. Is the version of Blackjack where the dealer shows both cards a beatable game, and is it still offered anywhere?
That's called double exposure. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen that game in a long time in a live format. It seems to have gone the way of the dodo bird. It was basically not beatable. In fact, on average, the odds were worse than regular Blackjack. A lot of internet casinos still have this game. And, I have a whole big page about it on my website. Much like Blackjack, the odds depend on the specific rules. But, I think the number of tables in Nevada right now is 0.
Yeah, I can't think of one. Okay, next up. What do you think about teaching children about poker and casino games? Is it better to educate them early or try to keep it from them?
I would educate them early. I think that casino games is a good way to teach about math. Mm-hmm. And they're going to get exposed to it anyway. So, I would have no compunction about teaching kids how to play poker, especially if they were just playing for fun. So it's like that forbidden fruit. If you tell them you're not allowed to do it, they're totally going to want to do it. Absolutely. I think that's why we have so much problems with drugs and alcohol in the US, because they have that perception. And in Europe, that stuff is much easier to get and they have less of a problem with it. Okay, so next up is from Source King. What edge do sports books give themselves on future bets, like betting who wins the U.S. Masters? It's pretty high. It's about 30%.
And done. 30% and done.
I mean, some places are higher than others, and I have surveys of this on my website. But yeah, on average, the house edge on futures bets is really high, like about 30%.
Okay. Next question. Technics. Do correctly working automatic shufflers, not continuous shufflers, increase the player's EV in Blackjack?
So for the benefit of the rest of the audience, let me explain the difference. A continuous shuffler is one where basically after every round, the dealer takes all the cards from that round, puts them into a tray, and then they get randomly placed back into the shoe. And then an automatic shuffler is the one where there's 2 entirely different stacks of cards. Like say there's six decks of cards with a red back and 6 with a blue back. And once the dealer reaches the cut card, then the dealer will take all those cards, take out and put them in the machine, and then take out the color that was being shuffled. So there's always one color being shuffled and one color being used. And the odds are almost the same, but cut cards are actually slightly good for the player in Blackjack. So the odds are a little bit better with the automatic shufflers.
Good to know. And by the way, if you're ever playing on a continuous shuffler, you can't count cards on a continuous shuffler. Don't try.
That's right.
You'd be amazed how many people are on there and they're like actually trying to count cards, and you're like, dude, you're on a continuous shuffle machine. Go to another table. So Cool Banana says, how much do you charge to work out a system for an advantage slot machine game?
I haven't done a great deal of this. But I don't know. It would be around $3,000.
Okay. And how much did you charge the guys for Ocean Magic before you released it?
I think that was about 3,000. That's where I got the number from.
Sounds good. And next up, can casinos increase the house edge at Blackjack by removing high cards from the deck and putting low cards intentionally without telling the players?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That would be a very effective way of increasing the odds in the casino's favor. And that's the thrust of Spanish 21, where they took out all the 1-0-10s. And so they used only 48 card decks. And because the shoe is so much more rich in small cards, that cut strongly in the dealer's favor. So they could afford to give the player some stuff back, like automatically winning on 21s and doubling on 3 cards and stuff. But all that little stuff that they gave the players didn't equal what the casino took away by removing those 10s.
That was a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, and this is from Technics again. How often are automatic shufflers needed to be calibrated or checked to make sure that they are working properly?
I basically just don't know. Do you, Heather?
So there's a little light on them, and the light turns red or green. Green means everything's operational and everything's good to go and there's no problem. But if that little light turns red, we need to call over the floor. The floor has to fix it. If the floor can't fix it, then we have to call someone else over. So the light on the shuffle machine is really what tells us whether it's working or not.
Yeah, I do know that sometimes, especially late at night, like 3 a.m., you see the shuffle master people come in and just swap out the machines.
Well, if you're in a casino and you hear red light, you know what's going on. The red light came on and they need a floor supervisor. Red light. It's not red light district. Don't get the two confused. Okay, so next up, what is your favorite pastime?
Favorite pastime?
You got a lot.
I have so many. And they're not always the same. I get bored with things and pick up new things. I'll just say that right now, I still like unicycling, rollerblading. I'm getting more into rappelling. I'm hoping to get more into kayaking now that it's a little bit cooler. But generally outdoorsy sports like that. Oh, pickleball is another one of my latest hobbies.
Cool.
Yeah.
So our last question, so please put in your questions if you have any. Is Kenny Rogers' The Gambler the best song about gambling in your opinion?
That is a good song. Another one I really like it's called Stew Ball by Peter, Paul, and Mary, about a guy who loses everything betting on the horses. And I think it's a real heartbreaking song. And, I don't want to say anything bad about The Gambler. I mean, it has a great melody. It's a great song to sing along to, but everyone knows it too. So yeah, that's all I can think of off the top of my head. And by the way, guys, 5-minute warning.
As long as the casino isn't playing the song, Another One Bites the Dust. Can't stand that. Do not play that song in a casino.
When there was a really bad dust storm at Burning Man, somebody was playing that song really loudly. I don't even know, and they were playing it from their car. I don't even know how they could see anything. The dust.
Oh my God.
And this was at like 2 a.m. too.
Wow. Another One Bites the Dust. Okay, so our online...
Another song I don't like very much is Dust in the Wind.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know.
That's a slow song, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, screw the slow songs. Are online IQ tests accurate?
Yeah, well, yeah, the short answer is I don't really know. If you watch all of my live streams, you'll know that I recently scored a 130 on an IQ test, which got me into Mensa. But that was, thanks, Heather. That was proctored in person, as it must be to get into Mensa. But I can't speak to any specific IQ tests online. So, yeah, I don't really know.
Okay. And another casino song is Poker Face from Lady.
Oh, that's a great one. I kind of don't think that's really a gambling song. You could sing, Heather.
Only if you want me to break the windows.
I want you to break the windows.
Watch out. Be careful what you wish for. Did you watch The Survivors Winners at War?
Yeah. I did. I always watch Survivor. If there's a particular question you have about it, go ahead. But off the top of my head, I don't remember much about it.
Okay. And what
That's
is your
the one where Tony won, I think.
Okay.
Tony won a second time.
If you could keep track of that, already you're doing good. What is your favorite movie involving gambling?
It's oh shoot, what was the name of that? Rounders.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Rounders is a great movie. I mean, you don't even need to appreciate poker to just get so much out of that movie. I mean, every single scene is just outstanding, and I can watch that over and over and over again. And yeah, off the top of my head, what are some other good ones?
The only one I could think of.
I'm sorry.
Go for it.
You.
Casino.
Okay. You know, Casino is a good movie, but is it the kind of movie I can watch over and over again like Rounders? It's not. But one that I really want to plug that most people have never seen is called Stewie, and it's about Stu Unger, and it is the guy who plays Stu Unger is the guy who played Michael on The Sopranos, and it's just about basically a genius at card games. I mean, he's great at poker, he's great at gin, just a brilliant guy, but he's also very addictive, as we were talking about earlier in the show. And one of his rivals in that show was the guy who played Arnold on Happy Days, and the teacher in Karate Kid. And I don't know why nobody has heard of Stewie, but it's a great movie. I highly recommend it.
If you guys have heard of Stewie, put it in the chat.
Please, someone say I've seen Stewie. I think everyone thinks I'm a ranting, raving loon talking about this movie that no one's heard of, but it's a great movie.
I got to check it out now. I have to watch that.
Please, someone in the Peanut Gallery say I've seen Stewie, and I agree with you, Wiz. It's a great movie.
If you read books, what is your favorite genre?
Science fiction.
Yes. Science
I also
fiction.
kind of like historical fiction like James Michener, but yeah, science fiction is more.
Any good science fiction books that you've read lately that you really like?
To be honest, I'm not a real voracious reader. I'm reading one right now called Wanderers, where people basically start just basically sleepwalking, and you can't wake them up, and they join like these big caravans of people sleepwalking.
They're zombies.
And I think another one I read recently was Dr. Sleep, the sequel to The Shining.
Oh, I bet that one's going to be good.
Yeah, and I read all the Hunger Games books, and yeah, that's all I can think of off the top of my head.
Cool.
I have a feeling I'm missing something that I've read recently. I can't remember though. Yeah, sorry. Has anyone heard of Stewie?
Haven't seen it, haven't heard of it, have not seen it, but I'll give it a watch. I've heard of The High Roller, the Stu Unger story.
Stewie is the Stu Unger story.
Oh, so that's it?
The Stu Unger story is the subtitle.
Oh, okay. So one person heard about it.
Okay, that's good.
And a good comedy movie is Let It Ride, someone was saying.
I don't recall that one. One movie that I hate though is 21. Oh, can't stand that movie.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like we've reached the end of the hour. Are there any last questions out there?
We got 2 more.
Okay.
We'll do the fast one first. Does dice setting work?
Short answer, no.
Woohoo! Got that one done. Second one is, after the Caesars and El Dorado are combined, are the comps going to be better or worse?
Worse.
Okay, we got both of them out of the way.
And, I don't need to know a lot about the companies, but just mergers are bad. Yeah. And this is true about mergers in general, and it doesn't matter the industry. Competition is good. Mergers are bad for the competition.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Well, this was really fun. I really enjoyed this.
Thanks, Heather. Thanks, audience, for watching. And shall we do this again in 2 weeks?
If you want to do it on Thanksgiving.
Oh, thanks for reminding me.
You're welcome. We might want to skip Thanksgiving and do it on the 3rd.
Yeah, let's do it in 3 weeks.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Cool. Bye, everyone.
Okay, bye, audience. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.